Well, as we start to wrap up our conversation, what resources, might have been helpful? What are some different tips you might offer programs that are just starting out on this journey?
So, like E said earlier, um, people in our field, whether that's psychology or social work, any clinical services, things like that, we should be addressing victim situation with compassion and empathy. So that's eliminating any stereotypical judgment or just biased views, so that way we can best collaborate and come to help the client. It's extremely important to recognize the victim's level of self confidence and motivation for changing their own future, because sometimes professionals in this field, sometimes professionals may give up on the client or become impatient. And when it comes to Safe Homes Rape Crisis Center, we have to understand our steps of change, understand hesitance, reluctance, things like that. And advocates and programs should understand that most women that live in our shelter usually stay between anywhere between a week and 2 months. Therefore, consistent interactions such as motivational interviewing and monitoring victim progress when it comes to their goals, it helps us clarify the reasons for our intake and if we have any recidivism rate. And that's if a client, for example, returns to their abuser and has to come back to our shelter. So we recognize and try to understand this recidivism rate ahead of time by monitoring the victim progress and understanding what they want and clarifying these goals. Moreover, this lets us know how we can improve our services and expand our options for partnering with other resources and partnering with coalitions.
Mhm.
Our agency this past year in our long range planning came up with 5 values, which are excellence, compassion, integrity, equity, and collaboration. And I think offering services to people who are anywhere on the spectrum of non-substance use to substance use, abuse, addiction, um, I think that services need to fall into all of those value areas, and those values improve the type of services we offer. And I do think that it is a real equity issue for people who have substance use disorders. They are a high percentage of our population, and yet they are also an underserved population. And I think it's really important that we address that.
Yes, absolutely. We are not going to end violence without being inclusive and responsive to people who use substances.
Yeah.
Yes. Thank you so much for this conversation today. It's been so great to hear how your program just really weaves together advocacy and then that clinical support for survivors who are interested in that clinical support, and both what you're doing within your program as well as collaborating with external community based partners. I think that your program is such a model program for our nation. And I really invite everyone who is listening to this to check out your website, Safe Homes Rape Crisis Coalition, see all the different services you offer, and just thank you for being at the forefront of this really important work.
Thank you so much,
Well,
Gabriella.
thank
We
you.
appreciate it.
Thank you.